All right, hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Mystery School.
How's it going?
Hello.
So tonight we got over here to my left, Danny Navarro. Say something, Danny.
Hello.
That's Danny.
We got Dustin, of course.
This
Dustin
is my
Bird.
voice. Yeah.
And then Mike Gillman over here.
Hello. Hi, Mike. Back in Arkansas.
And then Ryan Moore is back.
Good evening.
For the three-peat, right? He's the third-time offender now.
That's right.
Third time. I'm Tony Eddlemon. But so Danny actually used to live here. This is your old stomping grounds. You probably feel pretty comfortable in there, huh? Feel right at home.
I think I left a couple of things here too. So
Yeah, I think so.
Wait, this is your old house?
Yeah.
Nice.
You left your I don't know if you intentionally left it, but one of your original, like your CD that you made. That's what's it called?
that was a gift.
Okay, I didn't know.
That was your housewarming gift.
I was like, I don't know if you forgot this or whatever, but I listened to it.
And I'm
was
sure
cool.
it's still in the plastic.
No, it was open. It was never in plastic. I think somebody probably returned it and then you gave it to us.
They make great coasters.
Somewhere over there's an ex-wife, isn't there?
Yours.
You play in Ant Bee, and Mike also plays in Ant Bee.
Yes.
Yeah, it's cool to have you guys. Yeah, Mike, you were actually the bass player of the church I grew up going to. Remember watching you play your you had like a natural Rickenbacker, right?
I did have a natural Rickenbacker. I wish I still had it. Anyone wants to donate one to me, I'll take it.
We get a lot of Rickenbacker donations. So
Yeah, I bet.
Is that the Rickenbacker they were talking about? Our hardest guitars or music instruments that we've sold that we regret?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that came up earlier.
Yeah. And then Ryan, of course. If people have listened to this, they know who you are. You're like
pretty good.
You're from you're like the what is it? Part like greatest hits. I don't know.
Yeah, he's become a regular almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's been fun. I think this is the first time I'm not on some crazy cold medicine and alcohol, so this could be
Well,
good or bad. I don't know how it'll turn out.
Yeah, I think that cold medicine was actually helping out.
It definitely helps out.
Always does.
Music is better on NyQuil.
You got to get the old codeine kind. All right, so let's start off with Danny. How'd you get into listening to music, and like what was some of the first stuff that you remember hearing?
Well, the Beatles.
The Beatles.
The Beatles.
First musical memory.
Was it the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show?
Yes.
That's so many people's like. So many people say that, like, well, I was doing this, and then I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan.
And my parents were into music. I had older cousins who, when I was growing up in the 60s, I was a kid, but they were listening to some cool stuff. And my cousins turned me on. I mean, I was listening to Miles Davis when I was 12, Dylan, all my friends were listening to the Archies and the Partridge Family, and so they really turned me on. That's where I got my musical taste from. And then my brother and I kid about it all the time, because when we were teenagers, we were listening to Black Sabbath and Deep Purple. We wanted nothing to do with my dad's music at all. And 30 years later, we're sitting talking about it, and we said, I don't think we realized how cool Dad was, because he was listening to Ray Charles and Buck Owens and Merle Haggard and all of this stuff that became total classic music. But when we were kids, we wanted nothing to do with it at all.
That's funny.
So we go back and we steal all his old albums, and so that's where I got my taste for that kind of stuff, and then typically I just get bored with stuff. And so I'm always, you turned me on to something last night I never heard. What was the name of that group? Graveyard. Never heard them in my life before, but I love hip hop.
Yeah.
Reggae.
You got a pretty open mind still.
Yeah.
You're
it's
not just
hard to get me in a band, because I don't have one style of music. One week I want to be a country band, the next week I want to be a metal band, Grateful Dead, and so
You'll fit in good in these parts.
yeah.
And then you got into the Dead, right, at some point, and you saw them a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, not a ton, but
How many times?
I've probably seen them 10 times.
Oh, okay.
Jerry Garcia band thrown in there too. I got into the Dead. After John Lennon died, and I thought music is over with. You know, they killed John Lennon. There's nothing left. And I started listening to the Dead, and I really didn't appreciate them that much. You know, the old joke is, you know, what did the one Deadhead say to the other when they ran out of pot? These guys suck. So that was my attitude. And then I went and saw them. Believe it or not, they played in Grass Valley, and the band opened up for them.
Wow.
And that was the best show at that time that I'd ever been to. And then from there on, it was just, you know, I learned to appreciate them, and obviously learned, I mean, how great a guitar player Jerry Garcia was. And I started listening to Phil Lesh, the way he played the bass, and you know, and followed him until Jerry died, and then I still go see, you know, further and Rat Dog,
all the offshoots,
and all the offshoots, and some of the best shows were the Jerry Garcia band, because he would just play things that he wouldn't play with the Dead, and a lot of cover tunes, and it was fun, man. It just you know. It's an acquired taste.
It is. It's not it isn't like that easy to get into the Dead. It's
no,
like,
as a matter of fact, I asked him, Mike, to come play with us, and he kept asking, do you have a song list? Do you have this? Do you have that? I go, no, we're just going to jam. We're just going to jam and, you know, do it like the Dead. Which I don't know how much he's done of that. So
that's fine. I do that all the time. I love it.
So that's what I like about it. I mean, of those shows I saw, I probably never saw the same set list twice.
Yeah,
you know,
you get the 20-minute versions of the songs.
Oh yeah. And we I can remember shows where I saw them one time 3 successive nights. They did albums. They did Working Man's Dead and American Beauty, and I can't remember the other one they did. And night one was probably one of the best shows I ever saw.
Which one, Working Man?
Working Man, yeah. And the next night, they sucked. They were terrible.
What was that album? American Beauty or something?
You know, I don't think it was American Beauty. I think American Beauty was the third night. I can't remember what. You know, it might have been Blues for Allah. And it was bad. They were obviously tired and burnt out from the night before, and then the third night they were back to normal. You remember the night we saw them in Golden Gate Park, and
Further?
we saw Further.
Yeah,
and they weren't that great that night either.
Yeah.
So
they did a few cool songs.
Yeah,
though. They did that Time.
They did that Pink Floyd thing. So.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. They nailed that one too.
Yeah. And then it turned me on to other stuff too, because that's when I started listening to Fish, you know, Widespread Panic, and all those types of bands.
The jam band stuff.
The jam bands, and it's great, man.
Yeah.
It's great. You can't get away, you know, in the cover band that we play in, you can't get away with doing that because nobody wants to hear it. They want to dance. So, but the good thing about the band that we're in is when we started, it was like, we're going to play whatever the hell we want to play. And if they like it, they like it. And if not, it just happened to work out, you know?
Yeah. You guys are like the biggest band in Roseville. It's true though. You guys like pack out the Trocadero. It's like wall-to-wall people.
And that's the home base.
Yeah.
We love that place.
Yeah. It's a cool place because you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know?
How about you, Mike? How'd you get into listening to music?
My parents were musicians, and I grew up listening. Every morning I'd wake up, and down the hallway, my dad would get up to go to work at McClellan real early, and he'd have crack radio, KRAK, Country Channel. I don't know if you remember that, AM. And always, every morning at the same time, Marty Robbins would be singing El Paso, and I would hear that coming down the hall. And they bought albums, and I would listen to albums, to songs that normal kids, 8, 9 years old wouldn't listen to. And so I got into that. And it was mainly country, but as Danny said, the Beatles came along.
Yeah.
And that changed everything. I wanted to play guitar. And
did you watch it on the Ed Sullivan Show?
I did, yes. I mean, half of America did, didn't they? Yeah, everyone did. And so, anyway, So that really got me going into the rock and roll end of music.
Yeah, I know
from the
you're
country.
a huge Beatles fan, right?
Yeah, very much so. I got all their albums. I got pictures. I got all kinds of stuff and
Yeah.
stuff. But I never did get to see him,
No?
unfortunately.
You ever
no.
see Paul?
I did not, but if he ever comes to town, I might just have to spring the money to go see him.
Yeah.
Before he dies.
We saw him a couple times.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Oh,
at Golden Gate Park.
Yeah, I heard he puts on a good show.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I'm glad he goes back, and he not only does his Wings stuff, but he also does Beatles stuff. And
Yeah, he does it all.
Yeah, he does.
It
yeah.
sounds good. He's got a good band. My
Yeah.
only
I thought Paul
complaint
was dead.
No, Paul's alive. My only complaint is that he has the same banter. I've seen him, I think, 2 times, and he like just word for word, same banter.
Oh,
He's like tells the same
portray the
stories.
same image.
yeah.
It's just weird when you see somebody like, oh, it sounds so fresh the first time, and then he does it again. You're like,
Well, you know
oh,
he's
It's
73.
natural.
yeah,
So then in high school, I had this old Silvertone fat body F-hold electric guitar, and my friend had the exact same model, only blonde, and we were playing together, and we were, of course, playing Beatles stuff. And he went off to Arkansas to work for the summer, and he said he was going to save up and buy, and he did. He bought a Fender Telecaster. And I saved up and bought me a bass, and of course it had to be the violin Paul
Yeah.
McCartney bass.
yeah.
So when we got
Did you
back,
get the actual Hofner one?
I did not. It was a little cheap thing called Crown, I think, and it was just cheaper and all. It cost me $65.
Yeah,
And my mom begged my mom. She was shopping in the store across the street, and I begged her to come over and sign for it. And I paid her back, of course. But then we had our little garage band in the high school.
yeah. Were you guys playing Beatles tunes?
Yeah, a lot of Creedence because they were really easy. It was
Yeah.
3-chord songs, and the leads were really easy to do and all that kind of stuff. So we just did Creedence and stuff. And as I got older, my dad, when he retired, he went blind, so he had to retire. And the only thing he had to do was music and listen to music. And he got he really listened to the channel, the radio channel up in Grass Valley, the KVMR, I guess. And started listening to a lot of the Flying Fish stuff, like Peter Rowan and all those guys. And he would buy their albums like crazy. I have them all now, by the way.
Yeah.
So I really learned to appreciate that music.
Do you have like rare Beatles albums and stuff?
I have every Beatle album American Beatle album that they did, including the Beatles Story, which was released in '64. And I have all those. I don't have the Butcher cover, no. I wish I did.
Oh yeah.
But I have that album that they put a different picture on front. It's called Yesterday and Today.
Is that with the sticker and you can peel it off? Is it that one?
Yeah, it's not back there. I don't think. I don't know if I
No,
want to ruin the
it
front of
is.
it. I
Yeah.
doubt it if it is. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you start playing, Danny?
I think I got my first guitar when I was 12, and I wanted to be Eric Clapton by the 3rd day, and got totally frustrated with it.
Did you get a Strat?
No, I got a Yamaha acoustic guitar, and that's what I started on, but I didn't play much at all. I mean, sporadically, and then when I went to college, I had so much free time on my hands, I just would sit in my dorm room.
Because you weren't like doing your school.
Because I wasn't going to school, yeah.
Who does
that? I started playing then and just learned a few chords and didn't even play into my first band until I was like 26. And because I was an athlete in college and I'm going to school, and I just didn't have a lot of time. And my brother's a musician, and we just put a band together.
Did Ralph play before you?
Yeah. He played a lot better than me. I mean, he still plays a lot better than I do. But we had the same taste in music, and so we just started a 3-piece, and it was fun.
Yeah.
We were pretty good. The stuff that we played, it centers a lot around vocals and harmonies and stuff. We play Crosby, Stills and Nash and the band and
Yeah.
Beatles,
great
and
3-peat
Grateful Dead. Yeah,
harmonies
so
in our group.
I'm not that great of a guitar player. I'm adequate, but it just allows you to play.
You're a killer singer, you're saying?
Yeah.
He is. He's good. What-
No, in my realm, which is, Dylan, Tom Waits, anything higher than that, I'm no good at.
Yeah, you do that stuff cool, like like some of the kind of like Dylan or see what else do you do that's cool. I don't know.
We do a lot. We do a lot of weird songs and renditions. That's my favorite thing is just to take a song and not play it like the record. Just play it. You know, I haven't told him yet, but you know, I want to learn "Living the Vida Loca" the way Ant Bee does it.
That'd be sweet. That'd be fun.
I don't know if Steve's gonna go for that, but
he probably won't even know what it is.
But we used to play Partridge Family songs. The other band I was in, and people would laugh at it, and then all of a sudden they thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So picking songs like that people aren't expecting to hear, or my favorite thing is when somebody comes up and says, "Who did that song? I know that song, but I don't," you know. So it's not number one hits we're playing. We play stuff that, you know.
And another thing I like is we combine songs.
Yeah, we combine.
If the song's in a certain key, let's say E, and it sounds kind of like another song, we'll just go right into that song, and then we'll go into another song, and you know, half hour later we're back to the first song without stopping. It's great.
That's the Dead.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, and that's I'm sure that's where I got it from. Yeah, but there's certain people that won't do that. You know, you can't do that. That's not the original key. And it's like, why not? You know, just you know, and we've come up with some pretty cool stuff.
We have, yes.
And that's probably the reason I'm 55 and I'm still playing music is you got to do what you kind of want to do. I mean, you got to give the crowd.
It's got to be fun.
Yeah, you got to give the
you
crowd
got to enjoy
what
doing
they want,
it. You know?
But yeah,
if it becomes a job, then you hang it up and go home. You know?
Yeah. If I have to play Margaritaville one more time, I'm gonna die. So
you're wasting away. Huh?
Now, Danny's got good stage presence. Anytime that Danny doesn't come forward, everyone's saying, "Tell Danny to come out and talk some more. Tell him to do this," because he's a great showman.
Until they try to censor me.
Yeah, hey, that wasn't me.
Who tried to censor you?
You will remain nameless.
That's funny. All right, so what's some new music you've been listening to?
A lot of people that you know you'll never hear of.
Yeah.
Band I'm really into. They're local. They're called the California Honey Drops.
Yeah.
A band, Achilles Wheel, which is a great jam band. I've seen them a couple times. I just saw them a couple of weeks ago. I love going to the festivals because you always hear somebody you've never heard of before, and you just get hooked on them.
Yeah.
You know, and I've discovered people that went on to be famous, but the first couple of times, you know, that I saw them, nobody knew who they were, you know. Like Spearhead, Michael Franti, and
you showed me Old Crow Medicine Show.
Yeah, Old Crow Medicine Show. Yeah.
They seem to get pretty big.
Yeah, and then the new stuff that's kind of coming out is it's trendy, but I mean, Avett Brothers, Mumford and Sons, those types of things. I love that stuff. You know?
Those are the ones I really like.
Yeah. A lot of acoustic stuff.
You like a lot of kind of bluegrassy kind of stuff?
Yeah, and traditional bluegrass. I love traditional bluegrass. When my grandfather came here from Mexico, he came here in like 1930-something, and he got here. He couldn't stand big band music. That was rap to him. That was his rap. He couldn't stand it.
Yeah, it's funny.
So there wasn't very many Mexican radio stations around, so he would just put it on the country station. That was the closest thing that he had to, you know, acoustic Mexican music. So when I was a little kid, Hank Williams and all that stuff, I would probably crack radio.
Probably, yeah. That was the big.
Yeah.
That was around when I was a kid still.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that was a
FM
big channel around here. And
Yeah.
It just had like 50 bazillion watts. It went all the way up to Alaska, I think, you know. So it was huge.
And it was strictly country.
Well,
Sacramento had some great radio stations.
Some of the disc jockeys on crack are still around on other channels, like Joey Mitchell,
Big Jim Hall.
Big Jim Hall, all those guys,
And the radio stations there was an AM station called KNDE.
Yeah, I remember that.
Was basically an underground station, but it was AM, but it was way before corporate radio, and and that station lasted what, 10 years probably, before it changed formats, and then you had the pop stations, and and KZAP was completely underground back then. They would play.
Here's something that I think we all, at least the older generation, not you young kids, but when we grew up, they had the AM radios were the top 40 radios. And what they did in the top 40s was the top 40 selling songs in the nation. So you could be listening to Dean Martin, and then the next would be the Beatles and the Stones, and then you'd go to whoever, Frank Sinatra, Nancy Sinatra, you know what I'm saying? And so you'd get all these different styles of music, and we grew up with that, and I think that's why Danny and I have an appreciation for all kinds of music except rap.
No, I like rap.
You do, yeah. Okay, let's hear rap, Mike. Let's hear you do a rap right now. Come on.
You want me to hear? You want me to do my Snoop?
Rap. Yeah. Oh, dang. But yeah, we had a wide variety of music to choose from growing up, and that I think kind of balances us out instead of just being heavy metal or just one genre. We can branch off into a whole bunch of different things. So.
And Tony, you and I are like raising our kids the same way. My kid does not know what a Barney song sounds like, but he can sing Yellow Submarine from one end to the other. And,
Yeah, Van, every night he listens to the Jerry Garcia's greatest hits. So it starts out with Deal and like Sugary's number 3. And he like knows all those.
Do we have an episode where he sings Deal on it, or was that just a jam?
No,
I know we have one recording where we played Deal and we tried to get Van on there to sing to it.
He sang The Weight with us
that one night, and it was so funny. It was cool.
Yeah, he did. He sang it at your show.
And I think that's really cool, because there's a time when he
was 2.
Start to think that they're never gonna know this stuff.
Right.
It's just gonna disappear because it's not played on the radio, and so.
Well, I'm amazed by all that. I mean, because you would think that the Beatles would die out when we die out, but there's a whole. You go to a Beatle tribute band show, and they're there from 6 years old till 90, and everyone's singing the songs. All the teenagers, everyone knows the song, so there's still a market for them, I guess.
The Beatles are still huge. You know what's kind of weird though? Elvis. There's like you never hear Elvis anymore.
Yeah, it is true.
It's just like never on the radio. Maybe Christmas time you might hear some.
Blue Christmas.
Yeah, but it's like what happened? Like, does he not have like the right PR people?
It's on the oldie stations.
You hear it on there sometimes.
Yeah.
I just like never hear Elvis anymore. But I hear the Beatles like every day, no matter what you're doing. At some point, you're gonna hear a Beatles song.
Yeah.
Whether you're at the grocery store or.
Yeah, because it's modern, it's classic, it's kind of that timeless music. I think that generation to generation gets passed down.
I don't know if you guys have ever heard the album where they did tribute to Sun Records. They did a lot of that stuff, but it was like live, the band live, doing like Walk the Line, and so they're timeless songs. They're doing them totally different though, distorted guitars, and so you can hear a song like that and just think, God, who did that? And it's Elvis Presley or Eddie Cochran or
Sure.
Let's get you in here on this, Ryan. What I know you talked about listening to on the first one, Johnny Winters, like your dad's albums. Your dad was into like classic rock and blues type stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely. My dad was into. It's funny hearing everybody talk about their dad and what their dad listened to.
Sure.
And that's so impactful, And my dad was way into. We always had the classic rock thing going on. Definitely Allman Brothers, Led Zeppelin, all the stuff that you would expect to hear. And then what he really liked was Poco and Little Feat and some stuff that was a little bit off the grid.
Yeah, that's like a cool dad to like be hip to some of that stuff.
He's definitely a cool guy.
That would be in the 80s then?
Well, it was. I was hearing it in the 80s.
That's when I was hearing that. Yeah.
But he had stuff from the 70s. That's more what he was into. He was into Poco and Little Feat in the 90s as well, but definitely stemmed from the 70s.
Sure.
And it's funny because those were the bands that I heard what he was playing in the 80s, and I didn't understand the difference of their 70s music and their 80s music. So I always kind of had this negative thing against Little Feat and Poco because I was hearing their 80s stuff. And then it's so funny, later in life, I'm just a diehard, Poco and Little Feat fan, and he's just cracking up. But his album collection was, for a kid walking into hearing that kind of stuff after being exposed to kind of what you're exposed to from the mainstream. I guess when we were growing up, it was.
What were you hearing like growing up on the radio?
Yeah, growing up,
you were a little before Nirvana, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And Nirvana for me was probably like junior high school.
Yeah, because like Nirvana was around like when I was growing up. That was like the big thing, the grunge thing.
Yeah, I'd say elementary to junior high, it was just like, either metal with Metallica and all that stuff, or it was pop and rap was becoming, a popular thing, but it was all this gangster rap kind of thing. So it was pretty much everything we would not listen to at this point.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot in between. And before that, it was Tesla and kind of the hair band stuff with Rat and everybody.
What was like your first favorite band?
Tesla, actually.
Really? Tesla?
Yeah, I had a really cool Tesla. So, that was the first band I really gravitated towards. And then I walked out in my condos and this apartment complex or condo, whatever I was living in. And I saw these guys hanging out, and we were walking by, and the guy had an acoustic guitar, and I walked up, and I was like, oh, man, I love that song. That's like, my favorite song. And I think I was probably, 8 or 9.
Uh-huh.
And it was I can't remember if it was the singer or the guitar player from Tesla.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, come on, sit down. And he just jammed like, 5 or 6 songs and just hanging out. And that just automatically sparked my interest in music. And my dad played guitar and everything. And it kind of went from there.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing that like you decided like I'm going to learn how to play guitar.
Yeah. Well, also watching my dad do it, you always look up to your dad. You want to be your dad, and
Was your dad pretty good when you were a kid?
Yeah, definitely. He played a lot of acoustic, he played a lot of banjo, really good on the banjo.
Yeah,
just a real eclectic, broad music
Was he
appreciation.
playing, like, bluegrass banjo?
Mm-hmm.
That's hard stuff to play.
It is.
Finger picking.
That 3-finger picking, 5-string banjo, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was into that, but it was funny. His album collection was just like, it was eclectic. And he had some stuff that I think was off the beaten path. Like Hot Tuna was something that I really liked.
Hot Tuna.
Johnny Winter, just that blues experiment, was just phenomenal. And then all the different, the blues albums with.
See, this is what I'm talking about. You guys are, what, 20, 30 years younger than Mike and I?
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's still carrying on.
Same groups.
Yeah.
Well, look at the
music,
the Black Keys. Look at some of these bands that are coming out. They're digging.
That's why
deep.
we like them.
Yeah,
because that sounds like, such and such or whatever. It's not like they're literally ripping them off.
Yeah, it has like a modern thing to it. And you get that like modern production with like the big heavy drums and stuff.
For me, Axis Bold as Love was just an album that I couldn't believe it was so. I could observe the differences between that and anything else that was out there, and Hendrix really, really impressed me. It was obviously the dude's good, right? But he was just so different, man.
The Beatles went to see him in nightclubs in London. That's how good he was.
Yeah, Hendrix is amazing. I recently had never really listened to it, but I was at a record store and they were playing Banded Gypsies, and they had a pretty good system in there and on the record. It was so cool listening to that stuff.
Yeah, those guys were. They did one show, I think.
Probably.
I think
don't
it's
know
the
much
one
about
that
it.
It was a
recorded,
flip off. It was a flip off to what they said about him. He couldn't play. He couldn't play, without recording studios, and he was just an act. This is from my perception. I wasn't even alive then. You guys know what was really going on, but from what we hear,
we read all these internet articles.
Exactly. From our perspective, and what we hear is it's basically him saying, "No, man, I can play soul. I can play blues. I can do this." Is that kind of what was the word about Hendrix back then?
He could be, when he was having his problems, he could be really sloppy. But I can't even give you something to compare it to.
It was a good sloppy.
Yeah, no. I can't give you something to compare it to when people first saw him. It was like,
Well,
I've never seen this before in my life. I mean, it was. I mean, think of the tones they were playing before him.
Yeah,
and everything was pretty clean,
precise.
And real precise. And he was just doing things that, nobody was doing. And I mean, maybe Kurt Cobain, that profound of.
Well, see, that's why the criticism of him back then is because no one had ever heard that before.
Yeah.
So basically, he was a pioneer. I mean, he had the machete going through the jungle for all the guitarists behind.
First time I heard him play acoustic guitar was on some documentary or something.
Yeah.
And you're
Belly
right,
Button
man.
Window.
What's that?
I think it's Belly Button Window that he's playing at the beginning of that thing.
Yeah, where he's got the hat on and he's sitting there.
Yeah.
He was a great acoustic guitar player, but nobody really wanted to hear it. So
what about when like Pink Floyd came on the scene? Do you remember that?
Allegedly.
What? So a couple other things came on the scene at the same time.
Yes. Yeah. When I went to see him the first time, I was with a friend of mine, and I told her, it might look like I'm going to fall asleep during the middle of the song, but I'm not asleep. And she goes, and this was before the concert, she goes, what are these things like? And almost simultaneously, the lights go out, and that pig flies from the back of the auditorium. And that's the first thing she sees. Yeah. I got a question. I've always wanted to ask a group of musicians, what is your favorite band that you're ashamed of it being your favorite band? You won't admit it to anybody else, but you listen to them and you think, I like them.
Man, I don't know.
Mike?
Nobody wants to come forward with it.
We're just all pleading the fifth over here.
We won't even tell our friends. Why do we want to tell the world?
All right, I'll start it. Toto.
Buck Owens and the Buckaroos.
When I don't listen to this anymore, but when I was like 18, I listened to Nelly. It's embarrassing.
Oh, I think you win.
I wouldn't. I didn't even tell people this, but since you put it like this, Danny, I'll tell the world.
Since you mentioned the hip hop thing, in college I was in a band, and about 90% of the songs I wrote were based on Mac Mall, Too Short, and Mac Dre. Just from that rap,
like a Bay Area rap band.
Yeah, just
you were rapping.
This guy Ant Banks did like all of the music for them, and he just has really cool like Parliament funkadelic bass lines and stuff.
And that's actually what got me into hip hop. It's just I started listening to the beats.
Yeah,
and some of the best beats are on the songs that just that's what separates is when they start really swearing and degrading and all that. They lose me, but the grooves in those songs are so good. It's an art.
Mm-hmm.
Where when it started, we just thought it was like
their duty is to make people dance. I mean, they gotta just grab people immediately.
Yeah, when it first sampling and that stuff started coming around, I thought, what a ripoff.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin, what's the worst band you've ever liked?
Worst band I've ever liked, man. That's a tough question.
You didn't think of it already?
No, I would have to go off of probably the Bay Area hip hop, like Too Short. But I've always been one of those people who are proud of the music I'm listening to and try to like tell people about it and go, hey, check out this new band. So whether it's a fail or not, you're gonna love them or hate them. I've always kind of
old stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe I would never tell anybody like, oh, go listen to this new Too Short album, But I may like some of the old stuff. Because I listened to it as a kid.
That's why you cover it with Ampegs.
You got all these renamed files on your computer of like music you're ashamed of.
Track 1. Funky.
Old grooves.
It just says like new artist or something.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, we all have that same musical
there's
background
songs
of parents. That's neat.
There's songs that just bring back, I can tell you where I was. And it's usually, not a song that I was in love with, but it was just on the radio all the time.
Yeah, it's more powerful than a smell or a temperature to bring back that perspective.
You can be walking in a grocery store and hear a song, and you can think back to 1967. I was in 8th grade when that song was.
Yeah.
and it does trigger the memory.
And the emotion of what
The
you
emotion,
were going through.
If you had a girlfriend or something, it triggers all of that.
It's like a time machine.
69
It is, yeah.
69 or 70, we drove, my aunt and uncle lived in San Antonio. We drove back there, and like Hold Your Head Up by Argent
Oh, yeah.
was like the number one song at the time. So we're driving 12, 13 hours a day.
It was played once an hour then on an AM radio.
You'd go into a different radio station.
Oh.
So you just heard it in Phoenix. You drive about another an hour or two, and it comes on the radio station in Albuquerque. Then it comes on the radio station in El Paso.
So that was your personal theme song as you
I
travel.
can just see the desert, just driving and driving and driving. And, every hour and a half you'd hear that boom,
Boom.
boom, boom, boom.
then the organ would come in.
Yeah.
Well, should we jam now? You guys ready?
Sure.
All right.
Oh wait, real quick. Let's talk about what we're playing. Actually, our instruments for a second. Start with you, Danny. You got a cool 335 in there. Let's
Playing I think it's a 69 or 70 335 I bought years ago, and I haven't played electric guitar in 10 years.
Yeah.
I've just been playing acoustic guitar, so this is kind of cool.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing it. And you're using Jeremy's amp, the custom tuck and roll.
Yeah.
It's like looks like an old 50s car seat. It's like padded. Yeah, those are cool. They're cool looking amps. They're probably the coolest looking amps.
Yeah.
It's solid state too, but
Is
it's a 70s solid state.
wow.
So it's
So that makes
Those
it a
things-
modern
remember
day
these-
tube.
Mike, remember they used to have those things stacked about that high
Yeah.
on stage?
it's
They
like
had-
what John Fogerty used. This
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
And they had that round porthole in the front.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan, you got a new guitar. What are you going to be playing tonight?
Yeah, this will be interesting because actually 2 new guitars. Got a Les Paul, and I'm strictly from Fender. I've never played humbuckers before, but in the last couple months I just got a Les Paul and then a Ibanez hollow body for $400
Yeah.
that I love. So it'll be fun.
Like a 335 looking Ibanez. It's kind of like what John Schofield plays.
Yeah, they play a version that is like $1,500, and this is
But it's like the same kind of body style and
basically
stuff. He's just got like the premium one.
yeah.
And then what's your amp tonight?
Deluxe reissue, Deluxe Reverb reissue,
Mm-hmm.
and then pedal board with about 90 pedals on there that I'll try and figure out as we're going.
You got a couple
You can create some
Earthquakers on
ambiance
there.
tonight.
Got a couple Earthquakers.
You got the Timmy, right?
I took the Timmy off actually.
Oh.
It was malfunctioning.
Oh,
But yeah, the one that I'm pretty excited about is got a new kind of phaser, I guess, that has kind of a watery sound. And you mentioned that we were going to be possibly doing some
what's that
dead
one?
type stuff. It's made by VFE.
Okay.
It's called the Tractor Spotlight or something like that.
uh-huh.
It's a cool company. Talk to the guy. You can actually design your pedals online with the knobs and stuff that you put on there and the color and everything.
Wow.
And I had bought this version of him before that was called the Enterprise, and it had a Star Trek phaser on there, but he was sued by the Star Trek people at Star Trek, and so he had to. I called him back and said this thing stopped working, and he kind of custom designed this one for me and sent it to me. So
Wow.
cool company, VFE.
Yeah, that's cool. You got like a custom pedal. What do you got for like an overdrive
Butt
tonight?
fuck everywhere.
Are you doing overdrive?
For overdrive, this is kind of where it gets ridiculous. I got a new fuzz pedal that I can't remember the name of. Damn it. Yeah, I got a new fuzz pedal, but anyways, got one there, the Earthquaker pedal that has 2 fuzzes on it.
That's a Hoof Reaper.
The Hoof Reaper, thank you. Yeah, and it has a octave pedal on it too.
Yeah.
And then the OCD full drive.
Cool.
Man, I wish I could remember the new fuzz is pretty cool. Maybe we'll hit that later.
Yeah. Yeah, look forward to hearing all that stuff. Yeah, should we play now? Mike, what bass are you playing?
I'm playing a Schector 4-string, and it's got the long, skinny, narrow neck. Makes it easy to play from my little stubby fingers. And I'm
Nice.
playing through your Ampeg bass amp.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dustin, you want to?
I guess I'll get in on the action. Got the vintage Ludwig maple with the 24-inch kick. We got the 13-inch rack and the 15-inch floor with the the rack, man. It's 13 inches. You know, it's beautiful.
Huge.
Huge. And we got the Remo fiber skin heads on. And, cymbals will make some high-pitched sounds.
Cool.
They're made out of metal, I hear. Some kind of alloy.
This is
You
true.
hit him with a hammer.
He doesn't play like Keith Moon.
All right, let's hear him. No.
Let's do it.
How'd everybody enjoy this?
What do you think about it, Danny? Your microphone, man. Where's that? You got to use that thing.
Chewing.
Eating
That was fun. That was great.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. I liked how every song just evolved.
Yeah.
For first minute and 2 minutes, we'd put it together, and then
we'd get into it and move it along.
It's fun. It's been a long time since I've done that.
What about you, Mike? First time mystery schooler?
I loved it. It was a great mystery school. So I got my first mystery school 101 out of the way.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to do it again. Yeah, well, heck yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Brought
it was
back
fun.
memories of, teenagers always jam like that, but they never get any better, but we did.
Yeah, I think we like kind of locked a few things in, right? After like a couple jams, we're like, all right, we got this.
Yeah.
It was like a really full, like cool sounding.
Yeah, we had a
one tonight.
5-piece, man. The
We
quintet.
oftentimes are 3 or 4 piece. Tonight we had 3
We've been a duo
guitars.
at
Yeah.
times.
Hey, even a duo, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I think one thing that Mike and Danny know how to do very well is accent, and that was something that I think made that jam fun, is everybody trying to figure out what their part is in that jam, and then where the jam was evolving to, and then what your new part is. And
Yeah.
Just playing off the drummer. That's all the bass player
I know
does.
too, like there was times where I was like leading you guys off of the song, just like forcing you guys to follow along, like changing the riff, and you guys have followed along with it.
Yeah. It's nice to have a veteran bass man in the house.
Thank you.
Holding the groove down.
Mike was all over
There was
that
a
neck,
deep pocket
man.
there, I would say. Whatever that is, people out there
You
figure
only
it
got
out.
4 strings. You got to go up and down the neck.
You sounded good.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
How'd you like playing the Kustom?
It sounded good.
Yeah, I thought it sounded cool
it sounded
too.
good. Yeah.
And he played the rhythm great. He was worried about playing acoustics along, going back to electric. Sounded good.
Yeah, it sounded awesome.
Yeah, it was
yeah.
fun doing that again. But
I
it's
always
hard.
worry as a drummer jamming with 4 other musicians. I mean, 3 guitars and a bass.
You did
No.
good though, man.
Oh,
I mean, there were so many
yeah.
different things coming at you, and then you would adjust so quickly. It's
But and you guys, I mean, it was a really full sound without stepping on anybody's toes. So that was really neat.
Yeah, Tony and I were talking about you get accustomed to doing stuff like this, and then you get on a stage and you fall apart because you're not.
Yeah, we're all
It's
locked in. 'cause
locked
we're,
in, tight
We're in
knit,
like
and-
10 by 18,
Yeah.
probably garage.
Yeah, looking at each other,
We're just all like,
vibing.
real close
Right.
together.
Yeah.
Like
we
hearing.
can make eye contact.
I could hear everybody pretty good. Yeah, it sounded cool.
I was in a band for about 5 years back in the late 70s, early 80s, and we practiced in our garage, and we had it like that, like you have yours there, all soundproof and everything. And like you said, the sound was so good in there, we would be just, oh man, we're so good. Then we'd go out and play and go, what's wrong with us?
So, Mike, what do you follow? I mean, because you've got drums, you've got 3 guitar players.
Well, of course, I have to follow the chord progression, whatever their chords are changing. But as far as tempo and where I lay it's all on the drummer. I follow the kick, and then I watch him when he does rolls, and when he lands, I got to land when he's landing. So that's basically bass 101.
Yeah. Follow the kick, and when he does a fill, land where he lands.
Land where he lands, and make sure I'm on the same chord you guys are on.
Yeah, that is like some good advice.
Yeah, and it feels great for a drummer to play with a bass player that has that methodology because, I mean, then you have a whole nother piece to hold the tempo for you, and you can really lay down an ambiance or try to really highlight another groove or a lead, right? And or do an odd rhythm thing, but know that bass is holding it down for everyone. And
Yeah,
It's-
that's right. Yeah.
yeah, it's the dynamic duo, I think, built from there.
Yeah, you got like a thing with some people move like right along, like the drummer starts changing, you start changing, and then some people kind of more so will hold what was going on before, kind of keep the original rhythm, and it's all kind of cool. It's just like the different ways people play.
The different
So for
styles.
the rhythm section, what are some do's and don'ts? That I mean, obviously you guys are trying to hold a lot down. So what are some things that when something happens, you guys are like, oh no, how do we get back from this? Or some things that you really like when it happens?
Well, a lot of times playing the bass, because there's certain patterns you play, I'll start, believe it or not, daydreaming.
I can imagine.
Then I go, where am I on this neck, and where am I supposed to be? That kind of thing. So, yeah, a little daydreaming. But,
So, what are the best things to daydream about when you're playing?
Well, I'm thinking about the next song. When's our next break?
When is it coming?
No, I don't. Is Steve going to stand up and say A minor? I love you, Steve.
He'll come yelling from
Hi,
across
Steve.
the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, A minor, that probably would have been the right thing to yell tonight.
It would have been.
A minor or E minor.
Yeah, we were hanging around that pretty
We
much.
did a lot of that. Those are good keys, though,
They are.
or
And
at least guitars and basses.
it is. And it lends a lot to running scales and stuff like that. It makes it.
Like the A minor build that we had, the one note jam.
That
It's
changed.
great just to build it up
that
and
was-
just.
I'm dying to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, what was some of your favorite parts of the night? You like the A minor one?
Yeah, just the way it built. I mean, it was all almost kind of, thrash at the end.
Yeah, that's where, and that's rhythmically the other side where I'm coming from with drums is just trying to keep the one in a consistent groove, but also where's the ebb and flow, the builds, where is it getting stale, and then move it on to the next piece you hear where it doesn't need to end with thrash, or how many different vibes can you hear on one A minor note, right? And you use the band as the inspiration, but you have to keep the tempo there. You're always trying to be cognizant of the one, or keeping the band around that, like signaling where it is. But I don't know. Probably my biggest failure is trying to almost keep it too fresh. And you want to go into that meditative state and get repetitive and groove on that. But then you also want to be a good listener and be aware when that becomes stale and when there's a next opportunity for a new vibe to jump in. And sometimes I think that's a fail that you can have, is maybe you hear it too early and you don't let something breathe enough or fully build to its full potential, and you jump on that next thing too early. And that can also be a success too. You have to go for it, at least coming from it when you're jamming, right? But you just kind of jump and leap and hope it's there, but ultimately listen and make sure it's that. You try to think of the timing. When is that time to build or get louder, move it on, as you conduct it along too. I mean, yeah, the band is inspiration for that next moment. So.
I like that last song that we did because it had a definite line that the guitar players were playing, and so the bass could follow that.
Yeah.
Kind of like old Motown style.
Yeah.
And so I had a definite bass line on all three chords. And
Yeah, you have that song. That is what we're calling the new theme.
Yeah.
And it came out from the Gay by Yellow episode. Like
Yes.
2 episodes ago, I wrote it down, and then I was playing that bass line like you were playing, like do 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 do
Right.
do do do, and he was playing it along with me. And like we have the recording of it, and it's like, oh, that's a cool song. That should be the new theme, because we've always had like
This organ
we don't
bass
always
kind
play
of
it, but
funky jam.
we kind of have this running song that we would play like every episode, kind of to bring us back into the talk.
yeah.
So we're like, all right, let's do this one as the new theme. And then, but it's a fun song. You play, you got the riff, you start playing it, and then there's kind of the chords in between that riff where it kind of loosens up a little bit. It's a little more space, and then it comes back into that part. So it's got like a real like solid one. It's like on the it's the C7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so coming from the rhythm section, as I'm hearing it, looking back, is that change. I would like it to breathe a little longer and go on a couple more bars, a couple times around, But it is neat to
I
build
did
it
think
around.
about that
but
too, though, because we just do it 2 times.
Yeah, exactly.
You could
Equal
go
parts,
4.
So I'm
Yeah.
like the pattern. I try to mathematically sum it up, and sometimes it is good to have unequal parts or a derivative thereof or a fraction. But I think that one, when you get a really cool part and it's almost the chorus and the climax, that's one where you try to breathe it along, and then I make my fail on it because I try to draw that out. But it's like, nope, the band's going. It's the turnaround, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going,
Where a lot of bands miss it, they don't leave that breathing space you were talking about. Everyone tries to put everything in every measure, and it's just noise. But when you do back off, and in certain cases, I'll just hit whole notes and then let the guitar players do what they want to do, and then come back in and do that.
Yeah.
With an analogy to a conversation, right? You just need to fully develop a thought, or it makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
I mean, or it leads you on, and it's like, duh, where's the next note? Like, come on, finish your sentence, man.
Prefer not to think.
But sometimes at the same time, to not finish and to leave that anticipation is good. You don't want to overplay the part. So that's that happy medium. You're trying to juggle that all the time. It's like, oh God, what do you do? But that's what jamming's fun, and it's the mystery school.
Yeah.
You learn when to anticipate those. When it's bad, you look back and you see when it failed, when it worked, and I don't know. And hopefully, it gives you a better jumping point for the next, moment that you're in. So.
Yeah, Beatles lived in the studio. That's all they did was just jam until they came up with the ideas, and then they'd record a song. Can you imagine having that much money to just live in the studio?
Yeah.
So did they spend a lot of time?
Yeah, from 66 to 70, they didn't do any more touring. So they just were in there the whole time. And they would write their stuff at home, but then they'd come to the studio, and then they were just sitting there, and they would just bring in a mirage of different instruments. Just, well, what's this going to sound like this? And the same thing. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. We've talked about that before. I think that's a neat concept.
That's why I saw that sitar
studio.
hanging in there. I go, man, I'd love to get my hands on that and mess around.
You could borrow it if you want.
Oh no, I would just.
It's so hard to tune that thing, man.
Yeah.
There's too many strings, and you know how you tune it? It's wood,
Oh,
wood
it's a peg,
dowels
right?
shoved into wood. It's wood on wood. You know how
Oh,
good
man.
that holds?
Well,
It just-
you
it
don't.
doesn't tune.
You don't really. Do you really play the strings with your
Well,
left
see,
hand?
this is what I did. No, there's all these sympathetic strings underneath the strings that
and that's
just
for
resonate.
what, like droning?
Yeah, well, they just resonate with what you're playing.
Okay.
But I just wouldn't tune those. I just only tune the strings you play.
Well, I wanted to take it over to the Sikh temple over there and sit down and play some music. What do you think, Danny?
What do your feet look like? You got to take your shoes off. I have a sitar pedal.
Just seen
Yeah,
you
we did
play
some
guitar.
turns with
Guitar,
the
guitar,
dude.
yeah.
Have you seen that thing?
The
Oh,
electric one?
I've heard of those in
Yeah.
the 60s. There was a group that did. What's the group I'm thinking of? Red Rubber Ball, and it's a turn down. Remember they did
The Circle?
Yeah, the Circle, and they were managed by Brian Epstein of the Beatles. But they did a song called that, and they used the sitar in a song, but it was a synthesized guitar.
I have a
sound.
pedal. It only came out a couple of years ago, but it's like it kind of just reads what your guitar's playing, and it will do a drone, like a sitar kind of drone along with it.
Sweet.
And it does leads, and you can use a foot pedal to do bends with it. It's
Oh,
a
man.
bizarre pedal.
See, I've always loved sitar. It's a great instrument.
It
Which,
sounds
know,
pretty authentic.
Yeah, it
we
does.
did one of
I played
our
it one day. Yeah.
Yeah.
one of our early mystery school jams. We used it.
Yeah, I had an electronic pad that
He-
I could
yeah,
put
he
tablas
used-
on, and
Oh,
so
did
we
you
did
really?
like a bastardized Eastern Indian.
That was
Tabla
probably
jam.
our first like good jam,
Yeah,
right? Me and
it
you
was.
that
We
was
just
pro-
went there. I mean, maybe
It-
15,
it
20 minutes.
started-
We just got like I was going into like a nice meditative like just trance state. We just kept this.
It started sitar tabla music, but it ended up going to like Sabbath.
we
ended
built
up-
it to the kit. Yeah.
It ended up going to the drum kit and to like Black Sabbath. It was a good jam.
I'm having a hard time.
It's the trunk archives.
I'm having a hard time picturing
Too
Robbie
hot for TV.
Shankar like screaming, "Sabbath, bloody Sabbath!"
Yeah, I got to see Anusha Shankar at the Mondavi Center.
Did you?
Yeah, that was pretty badass.
Wow.
Isn't Nora Jones his daughter?
Yeah, I got to see
think
her
so.
before she was even popular. She
That's
played
her
with
half sister.
she played with Charlie Hunter at the Fillmore. He's if you don't know who Charlie Hunter is, he plays the 8-string guitar, 3 bass strings, 5 guitar strings, and he plays its bass and guitar simultaneously.
See, I think she ought to
Pretty
marry
badass.
Danny Harrison.
Yeah,
That would be a great
Who?
union.
Nora?
Yeah,
Or,
Nora
Shankar?
and Danny Harrison.
Oh yeah.
yeah. She came on
Cynthia-
stage. The crowd was like, "Who is
Cynthia
this?"
Lennon died
When?
today
Really?
or last night. It was all.
Well, you know, that was really weird. I was driving my bus around, and I was thinking, I go, wow. I said, there's still 2 Beatles left, but most of their wives. And then I thought of Cynthia Lynn, and I said, I wonder when she's going to die and what the reaction's going to be. And she just died today? Oh, weird.
Either today or yesterday.
I'm going to
put that
quit
on her.
thinking those
How'd you-
negative
yeah,
thoughts,
there
man.
you go.
You mojoed somebody else.
I'm mojo, man.
It's the cymatics.
He's a
101
good
right
bass
there.
player, but you don't want to hang out with him too much.
He's got a
You get
powerful
the-
mind, huh?
You know, all the fatality rate around him.
Think
is
positive
pretty
thoughts
high.
about us.
Just at least send him like an occasional text, like "I'm still alive. Don't quit thinking about
Don't
me.
think.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to remind him.
Oh.
Don't think I'm dead. I'm just hanging out I just haven't hung out with you in a couple of weeks, so I've been busy.
Yeah, you know you're in trouble when you walk in his house and he's got a doll on the table that looks like you with a bunch of pins in it.
No, I have a Woody doll, and you pull the string and says, "There's a snake in my boot."
Okay, it's digressing.
Do you guys have any stories that fit that model?
Yeah.
What
Do you want to rate it R?
You guys want to put anything out there?
Oh,
we can
we
always
love
ask
rated
to
R.
censor it after the fact, but we are rated R.
No, we prefer.
The FCC doesn't mess with
offensive
us.
things. Really.
On our 5-watt
Total
transmitter.
fines $0 to date.
I just always click this thing as like explicit, no matter what anybody says. I don't know. There's probably been some episodes where there's been no swearing.
Oh.
Nothing foul, and I still filed it under like a explicit lyrics.
Don't fool yourself. I can offend a lot of people without swearing at all.
Oh, yeah, he's a master of words.
You know what? Also, I mean, you got a story you're about to tell?
No.
Oh, because you probably have some good stories about watching people on acid at dead shows. Do you have any good ones of that?
They're not good.
Positive one.
Yeah. Before I had my kids, before I had my son, I swore if I ever had kids, I'm taking them to see the dead. And so I went, that show I was telling you guys about, the 3 shows.
Uh-huh.
I went the first night and people were tripping all over the place. And I was like, I changed my mind. My kid's not seeing this till he's at least 14, 15 years old, man.
I was listening
the kids
to.
I think it was ecstasy, most of it, the way they were acting. But
They have, that Live in Veneta, Oregon CD? It's from 72. I think it's the Creamery benefit, whatever. But but it's got like Keezy and the Merry Pranksters there and stuff. But there's this one part where this guy's like, "We have some kids in the missing kid tent. If you have a kid you haven't seen in a while," it's like they have a missing kid tent. they like
totally right.
This is just something they have to prepare for.
The most peaceful, cool, messed up people you ever want to hang out with, man. I went to it was a Rat Dog show, and it was a benefit for some political event. So there was a lot of political speeches going on, and everybody's getting all riled up, and then I was buzzed. I just wanted to stand up and say, "None of you people vote." What the hell are you talking about?
Okay, guys.
Yes.
You try to sneak out on this.
Let's wrap it up.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, guys.
All right. No.
Yeah, no
that
problem.
was
We got
fun.
Danny Navarro, Mike Gillman,
Yes, thank you.
Ryan Moore, Dustin Burton, of course.
And Tony Eddleman, the Mystery School, signing
Mystery
off.
School.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. Later.
And it's Mystery School what?
MysterySchoolPodcast.com.
Podcast.
Or you can find it on iTunes.
iTunes.
Paul Harvey.
Miss.
Good day.
Good day. Good job, guys. That was fun.
Only references Mike and I would
He's
know.
down. Yeah, we got it. Nice work.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, you did great tonight, man.
Can't wait to
Nice work. Yeah, good work, Tone.